Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. So I just saw a meme right now under a post that was made by one of our fellow content creators, Nothing But Skills. And underneath that post, people were talking about how Ubisoft Massive seems to have removed the emphasis on talking about the Division game or not even bringing out any content. And this meme is interesting. In fact, this person posted and said, when people who play Bethesda, Blizzard, or Rockstar games see Ubi people complaining about long wait times for games they want. And so it's basically kind of a kind of this meme that says, is this your first time actually in the in the waiting game? And I think it's actually really interesting as to how a meme like this can be somewhat fitting for our condition right now, because Ubisoft does pump out a bunch of video games. I mean, there's no one that can actually say anything against how many video games they just throw down underneath the different franchises. I mean, if you want to say anything about the Division, itself, they've already kind of announced another Division free-to-play game set in the Tom Clancy universe, whether it be a filler, whether it be a game that people may not necessarily know what to do with. And this is Heartland that I'm talking about, by the way. It is still something where they've already announced it, compared to, say, even companies like Blizzard, who have their own issues right now they're dealing with, and a massive lawsuit with the state of California. Many times they'll do some really weird stuff, and they eventually come back. If you guys remember, they talked about the Diablo mobile game before they even talked to their community about the Diablo 2 Resurrection game or whatever it is. You look at a studio like Rockstar. Rockstar will basically sit on one particular game for a long time. Now, I have no problem with Rockstar's measure, because they're usually, and I call them the bullseye publisher, or development studio, whatever you want to call them. They make one game, and that game just hits that nerve that earns them a bunch of cash, satisfies for the most part their player base and their community. But in the case of Tom Clancy, The Division, and all of these other games, Ubisoft is trying to punch out as many AAA games as they can. So I think that meme also kind of suffices, because when it comes to volume, one studio, basically brings out more products than the others. Now, I know quantity is not the same as quality, but again, we know The Division is kind of the game that we are more interested in. Now, here's one thing that I wanted to go ahead and discuss in this video, and I've said this many times because I feel like it's quite pertinent that the community here, we see that, one of the marketing tools that Ubisoft does use, and that tool is tension. You see, tension is a selling point to fans who have been extremely, I would say, interested in a particular product, especially when it comes to video games. You see, there's something about a video game that is, in a sense, not as tangible as other products. So let's say I need some cauliflower, right? I'm craving cauliflower and I gotta have it. I just need to have it. I walk into my local Walmart and they don't have cauliflower. Well, guess what? I get in the car and I go get another, go to another grocery store, produce area in another store, and I will find cauliflower. This is a different tangible aspect. If I can't even find cauliflower and I want to cook it, I have other cruciferous veggies that I can substitute for that dish that will also do a good job. Cabbage is one of them, and it can actually do a good job, is actually more ubiquitous. Now, I know this analogy sounds kind of weird, but it's not the same with video games. You see, Dead Space is another video game where they're actually doing a remake. EA, that closed down the studio that made the original Dead Space games, saying in that closure that players don't really want these single player experiences, are now backtracking to go and make this game. And it's still exciting to the fans. Even though the fans are kind of upset that they closed down the studio that originally made it, it's still going to be one of those things that a Dead Space game, few games out there could satisfy that itch or scratch the itch. And I think that's what a game like The Division is kind of proving, that very few games out there, or no game out there, can even scratch its itch. But let's also look at something that Ubisoft and some gaming companies do to sell their product, and that's developing tension over time. Now, a while ago, I made a video where I was asking where the developers are, and at the end of that video, I mentioned something, along the regards of talking about Yannick and all, but something was surprising that happened. And I sent a screenshot to this to one of my content creator colleagues, and I was like, does this happen, from time to time? He said, well, you never know, it might be a troll or whatever, but it was a comment from Yannick. He said something about Terminator franchise sounds cool and put a smiley face. And I pinned the comment and I was like, okay, this is the first time something like this has ever happened in my few years of content creation. And I've mentioned this to you guys before. Now, I think that comment was more like a wink to, hey, we out here, guys. I mean, they're still doing the work or whatever it is. I don't even know. I'm not going to take that as confirmation of them making a Terminator franchise game. Please leave me alone. I think they're already knee deep into two major IPs. And there's also another studio that's already, kind of making these Terminator and RoboCop games. So I doubt that they want to kind of, delve into that aspect now, but you never know. And I think this is something that Ubisoft Massive has used in the past. Their quietness, in my opinion, creates a lot of tension, a lot of buzz within the community. I mean, right now I'm making videos here, even talking about the so-called tension. I'm probably part of the people perpetrating this tension, but I'm talking about it because it's something that I've actually seen in the past. You see, many a times we tend to, ignore some of the past patterns that this studio has actually, taken as its course. I started doing YouTube. I started making videos at the time when there was no content, no announcement. We didn't even know if anything was coming for the Division franchise. I just basically got, a microphone. I got a computer. I, got the game on PC. I used to play heavily on the PlayStation, and I decided I was going to talk about builds and talk about pertinent issues around the game. And there was nothing really in the works or in terms of the future. Now it's quite different. I mean, it's actually super different, because even though we don't know about a Division 3 game, we already know about a game called Division Heartland that did get alpha testing. That is, some people played a version of this particular game. It even leaked out in the public, even though that was something that violated the NDA of that alpha test. And so this is actually a much better scenario than anything else. And yes, it's being developed by another Ubisoft studio. It's being developed by Red Storm, compared to, say, Ubisoft Massive, who's developing the other games. And people would actually like to see a Division game come from Ubisoft Massive. As much as that sounds quite weird, it is something that's quite funny to see that the tension building has actually changed a lot of the conversation. Now, let me kind of point that out. So I remember at the heat of the Division 2, when so much was going wrong, when there was the suspensions, and there were the people who actually ran this weird glitch to be able to ram through the legendary missions, and they got their account suspended and got a 7-day or whatever, maybe 14-day rollback. I can't remember exactly the terms. A lot of people were not happy with this studio. A lot of people were very mad. Add that to a lot of the existing or pre-existing situations and scenarios between the first game and the second game. Many people swore that another studio would do the Division better than Massive. I read those comments for weeks and months and even years. Some people swear that they will never touch a product made by Ubisoft because of the experience that they've had with the Division. Some people have sworn that Massive could never do a good job, that another studio would do a good job. In fact, some have even pinpointed specifically to Red Storm, saying Red Storm would do a better job than Massive. If you think that these comments are far-fetched, I sit here reading them, all day, every day, and my channel doesn't get all of the comments in the world. So for every video, it's actually quite easy right now to read a bunch of comments. And so I've read these comments in dry spells of the Division content, and I've seen them. Now, what's really interesting is it appears that even though Red Storm is making another Division game, some people still want a game made by Massive, or at least along the lines of the Division 2, which they know, because it's a major project. The Division 1 and Division 2 are major projects that came from Massive, and the Division being Massive's baby, they want that game that comes from that line. So even though Massive has allowed for these other studios to take on the Division assets, take on some of the elements of the Division, and go ahead and make spin-off games, I don't know if Massive allowed. I would say even though Ubisoft has kind of opened that door, because even a game like X Defiant is being developed on the Snowdrop engine, and I think Heartland, I don't know, it may be, but Red Storm also has access to it since working on the Division 1 and 2, so we'll see what engine they're using down the road when they announce more details. It's quite interesting to see that people are still on Massive's throats. They want Massive to drop some sort of game. So, you know, the tension is really changing a lot of the narrative. The tension seems to be allowing for people to get to points where they're willing to compromise more on their past positions, having gone out there. And I'm just saying this hypothetically, or even from some of the, you know, discussions we've had, some people have gone out there and they've seen that, man, there is nothing out there that runs even as bad as a broken Division game, or as good as a broken Division game. Right now, if you look at the Division 2 in a busted state, it beat Cyberpunk, which was a game that was touted to, oh no, it's gonna destroy the Division. It destroys Outriders, even though people said, oh, Outriders is gonna be amazing. And even Destiny, all of the pizzazz has kind of, you know, I would say faded, because it just appeared that for, you know, these games, you cannot continue to bring out, in quote, all this content and charge people all this money without having that lag time. I guess the lag time is something that may be necessary for people to be willing to open their wallets. And so this is not just a video saying that that's the case. This is also a video that, you know, is willing to put out one of these disclaimers saying, don't fall for the tension building, because it's exactly what it's designed to do. Because I've seen the most dedicated, I've seen the most, you know, firm people even get shaken after this tension build lasts for so long. They buy in the hype and they go purchase the product. You see, when they bring out this new content for year 3, whenever it lands, our suspicion right now is that it's going to be coming with, you know, some seasons and apparel events and all of that stuff. Now, here's the thing. Seasons usually cost, you know, a little bit of money if you want to get the reward track. And I think that's probably what they're going to use in order not to push people away by saying we need to pay for the content. So they will attach maybe another 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons to it. A lot of people might get super excited, and the first season that appears, they're probably going to drop that $9.99 or whatever it is for the season track. That's only going to just earn them perhaps a cosmetic, a little bit of extra, you know, items, or maybe I don't know what it even does anymore. I haven't gotten it since like the first or second one. And that's something that people are going to do because they're excited, they're happy. You know, for some of us that are a little more savvy cheapos like myself, I'll tell you, you know, you probably wouldn't need that $10 going out of your pocket. Maybe, you know, take it and, I don't know, buy your kids a popsicle or something, $10 popsicle, like, for crying out loud. They'll love you more if you did that, you know. So these are some marketing ploys and some marketing tactics that these development studios, publishers usually use. Building tension. A game like GTA 6, the amount of tension that game has built, it's only going to lead and spill to another huge, massive, record-breaking, you know, release or even debut that people are going to just, you know, they won't even know when they blow the money on the biggest edition of GTA 6 once it finally, you know, hits the ground. It's a guaranteed player base. But again, like I said, Rockstar kind of does things differently. And even the Diablo fan base, who have been waiting for a lot of their Diablo games. I mean, they're looking at Diablo 4. They're looking at a remake of Diablo 2. Man, they're going to be dumping the dough on these IPs, on these properties like it's no, even with, and I say this, even with all the issues and the shenanigans that Blizzard is in, some people don't give a rip, man. They're going to go ahead and buy those games, which is kind of sad, you know, and that's why, as, you know, somebody who is a content creator, I never recommend that anybody buy a game against, you know, their own will. You got to make that decision for yourself, and you need to do whatever you feel or please that you want to do with your own funds. But I'll get off this topic right now. I just wanted to go ahead and make this video and just say, you know, the memeing is heavy, and that's pretty much what it is. But again, our wait time in the Division community is not as bad as some have been. In fact, I think we're actually much more fortunate than many other IPs. Some being delayed, no release date, some announced for this year, and we don't even still know if it's coming, like Horizon Zero, you know, Forbidden West, you know, and which other game got delayed? The God of War game. We don't even know if it's even going to be coming, and we know if it got delayed, but there just have not been any reveals or announcement on those games. And people have $500 consoles or even $800 consoles, depending on how you got you know, scalped, and they're waiting for these games and still may not be able to play it. So that's all crazy, man. Talk to y'all in another video. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Peace out.